I'm not going to keep this hat on for long because it won't fit my headphones. And my arms are already getting tired.
Mary Robinson.
She answered the question. She said no, so then I went, okay.
And Phil Tremblay.
Nebraska could disappear
I
off
know
the
it's in the
face of the
States,
earth,
but where's
and it would not
Nebraska?
affect me any.
Grab a seat because the show starts right now.
And as I predicted on the last kind of mini episode of Coast to Coast, I'm going to be stressed for my birthday. Because we have Game 7 tomorrow night in Florida, 6 p.m. Mountain. And I am so sad I'm wearing my birthday hat.
Happy early birthday, Alex.
Thank you. I'm gonna be so stressed, man. I'm resigned to Edmonton winning. I was telling my lovely fiance on the way up here that so my fiance and I are getting married this year. I'm turning 25 this year on the day of Game 7. We're also going to move into a house either late this year or early next. And all of that is going to surround the Oilers winning the Stanley Cup, and I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
I'm so sad. That makes me so sad.
Yeah. If it probably makes you feel worse, but I'm also kind of getting the feeling Edmonton's going to win this series. Mm-hmm. And I said on Armchair Athletes last week that I said the Panthers have no chance of losing this series.
Yeah.
Because I just thought it was like almost impossible and I know it's been done before, but for it to happen in the finals, like I get it happened in 1942. That was the ancient times. I'm sorry if that bothers people. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think that in modern NHL history we'd ever see that happening. And I thought that this Oilers team wouldn't be perfect through even 3 games to make it and force a Game 7.
Forgot to mention off the top, I'm joined by Clayton Yates again of the Armchair Athletes on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Give that a listen. What I did was during work today, because a lot of the conversation surrounding this finals is around Sergei Bobrovsky and his lack of defense in front of him is where I'm kind of seeing it.
Yeah.
So what I did was I watched all the goals that he has let in this finals, and Game 2, Ekholm's goal, 2-on-1, and he got like 70% of it, and it just went in. Game 3, Foegele on a breakaway. Broberg was going wide, it went off Mikola's elbow and went in. A lot of these goals aren't on him.
Yeah.
So if Florida can find a way to lock it down defensively, they might turn around and pull a win out of the hat. But with the head of steam that Edmonton's coming into this game with, I think Edmonton might do it.
Florida just looked defeated in Game 6. Like they didn't. I get that Barkov scored in the third period, had a very nice goal.
Yeah.
I thought Barkov played a good game, had the disallowed goal as well, which I get that it was a close call on the offside. The refs made the right call, but I thought it was still a great play there by Barkov. And besides that, though, I felt there was not much fight from the Panthers. Like there hasn't been much urgency. And the first one as well, like the first loss, I was like, okay, there's just no urgency there.
Yeah.
Game 5.
They're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Game 5 going back home, I thought then that was for sure going to be it. Like I thought that the Panthers would take care of business at home, win in front of their fans. I don't think that they go into Game 4 saying that we're going to lose this game for the fans.
No, yeah, because they brought in 150 people, and Bobrovsky had the chance at getting like the record save percentage. So there's no way that they intentionally stole the game.
Yeah.
But
it's like, I think that they are in the locker room after Game 4 saying, well, this one sucked, but got a chance to win in front of our fans. Now, let's take care of business in Game 5. Edmonton played very well in Game 5, got out to a 3-0 and 4-1 lead, and Florida just couldn't climb back into that one. And then Game 6, there was like no fight out of Florida. So I guess for Game 7, there better be some kind of urgency, or else the Edmonton Oilers will be skating around Amaranth Bank Arena in Fort Lauderdale with the Stanley Cup.
Is it any mystery that McDavid gets the Conn Smythe?
I don't think so at this point.
I don't think it is either. If Florida wins, does he still get it?
Yes.
Yes?
And I said before Game 5 that I thought it was the wrong move because I thought Barkov should have got it, because I've been a fan of the way that Barkov has played all throughout the playoffs and shutting down the top players from the opposing teams in those series. But at this point, like, the run that McDavid's on is historic. It really is. And I just don't think, and that's not to discredit Barkov or anything, but it's more so Connor McDavid's on such a historic run, I don't think that you can give it to anyone else at this point.
If Florida wins, I personally don't think they're going to. I think Edmonton's gonna take this one like a 4-2 win. But if Florida does find a way to pull this out, I don't think McDavid would want the Conn Smythe.
He wouldn't want it. I agree. In fact, I bet you they'll ask him after the game, and he'll just say, "Yeah, whatever, doesn't matter." But McDavid's not the one voting.
No, that Conn Smythe already has his name on it already.
Yeah,
it's already engraved and signed and sealed and delivered. When you look at let's look at both teams' paths here. So Florida first round, they beat Tampa.
Yeah.
Second round, Boston. Third round, Rangers. Do you think that once the series ends, and let's assume for this point that they're always going to win the Cup, if Florida loses this, how do you think they look at their playoffs as a whole, and how do you think they look at the finals?
A missed opportunity.
Yeah?
One big missed opportunity. I don't know how you can look at it as anything else other than that. I don't think failure is the right word, because the series failure, but the whole playoff run, like you made it to the finals, I don't know if you look at that as a failure, but certainly a missed opportunity. And I don't feel like you look at the one last year, and I said this last time I was on your show, Alex, Florida wasn't expected to beat Vegas in that final. No. Florida was happy with the season they had. I don't know if you can consider 2023 anything but a success for the Florida Panthers. 2024, I think that they were the favorites going into this final, and they steamrolled their way through the first 3 rounds, really. Like, the Rangers gave them a little bit of a tough one, Boston at times, but Florida made it through pretty scar-free. Yeah. And then they get to the finals, you're up 3-0, you have Edmonton on the ropes, and you can't finish it out. I don't know how you don't look at it as anything but a missed opportunity. How would you look at it?
Well, from a player perspective, there's no way they look at it from a, burn it down perspective. There's no way that Bill Zito, who honestly had, I love the Bill Zito cam on the Sportsnet broadcast, just on him. That it's so awesome because he has that stare that looks like he could just bake a potato when he just stares at it. It's just so intense. I don't think that you can honestly burn down what you have here because you're right there. It's just a matter of being tighter. You have Anton Lundell, who's an RFA at the end of the season. Nick Cousins is off. Ryan Lomberg, Steven Lorentz, Kyle Okposo, Sam Reinhart, Kevin Stenlund, and Vlad Tarasenko. Tarasenko, I imagine, is probably not re-signing in Florida. I wouldn't think. I don't think that's a necessity.
I wouldn't think so either, but I'm not sure how much cap space they have to sign him. If they have the cap space, it wouldn't surprise me if they bring him back. But like you said, they need to sign Lundell as well, who I think might get an extra boost in his salary after this playoffs he's had, because I think he's been very good.
It looks like they have about 20 mil in space, which is definitely workable. But if I'm Bill Zito, I see this as an opportunity to tighten up. You're right there. You're in the finals the past 2 years. This definitely doesn't read to me as a, burn it all down or knee-jerk panic move of trade your big guys, because your big guys are doing really well. It's just, you got to tighten up defensively. So defensively, Josh Mahura is in RFA at the end of the season. OEL, he's 32, is done after the season. Dmitry Kulikov, 33, is done after the season, and Brandon Montour as well. I imagine you hold on to Brandon Montour because he is really, really good on that back end. But
if they can.
If they can,
Yeah.
Again, you have the 20 mil, so you probably dedicate that to Montour a little bit. Probably throw a little bit towards Nick Cousins because he's really good at kind of that agitator kind of game.
Did you see the take I had today on Armchair Athletes social media?
I didn't.
I think if the Florida Panthers lose Game 7, Paul Maurice will be out. And I know that that's a hot take because he's been their best coach in years, given them the most success, back-to-back finals runs. But you mentioned that they need to tighten up. I think this loss will leave a massive scar on that team. Like, I really do. It's tough enough to get back to the finals after you lose it once. I don't know if they get back next year. Like, I think you're at least going to be, I think next year they won't get back to the finals, maybe the year after that. And the thing with Maurice is, if he goes back, do you think that he goes back into that locker room and hasn't lost the room if they lose this series?
You're saying he's lost the room then?
Yeah, I think he's lost the room if they lose this series, because that is. And do you? So when he left the Winnipeg Jets, he cited that he had lost passion for hockey and for coaching. And I said this earlier today. I said that I don't know if you could lose much more I don't think there's any scenario where you could lose more passion than going to the finals and losing in 5 games and then going back the next year and being on the wrong side of a reverse sweep.
Yeah, now that you mention it, you've lost 4 straight, assuming you lose tomorrow, you lost 4 straight here. That sounds to me like you lost the room.
Yeah.
What you're saying isn't landing.
And I kind of, speaking from a little bit of experience, when the Vegas Golden Knights lost to the San Jose Sharks in 2018.
That was a rough 5-minute.
Or 2019. Yeah. Bad call, but at the same time, too, if Gerard Gallant calls a timeout after the first goal, which he should have,
just calm down and
they win that game. So, and I hate blaming the referees, so I've always looked at that as more the games. Like, if the refs make the right call, Golden Knights win. But you're given a certain hand of cards. You have to play with that hand of cards in order to win the game. And the Golden Knights didn't play their hand correctly. They lost to the Sharks. And the next year, Gerard Gallant was fired in what people thought was premature. The team was 1 point out of a playoff spot. And on paper, it looked premature. But to me, it looked like he had lost the room. And he was out. Pete DeBoer came in, and then Pete DeBoer had a good couple of years in Vegas as well. Lost the room at the end. They hire Bruce Cassidy. He ultimately is the guy to take them to the goal. So you can talk about the ruthless moves, but if it pays off in the end, then
who cares? You got a cup.
Yeah.
Let's look at the other side now with the Oilers. So first round, Kings. Kings didn't put up much of a fight. That was always going to be the Oilers series. It's just a matter of how many games. Canucks. The Canucks battled them longer than I thought they would.
Yeah.
Especially with Shilov's playing the way he did. I thought that series was going to be over quickly. It wasn't. Conference finals against Dallas. Yeah, that sounds right. And then finals against Florida. If Edmonton loses, how much does that weigh on Draisaitl extension talks? How much does that weigh on the UFA and RFAs you have to deal with this offseason?
Yeah.
Where do you go with that? Where do you go with Chris Knobloch? There's a lot more question marks if the Oilers falter here than if the Panthers do. But let's start with Draisaitl.
I think Draisaitl and McDavid are going to be there for a long time. And I think this finals run has solidified that. If the team had lost in the first round to LA or maybe even the second round, I think then there's questions about Draisaitl and his future. But I think if you're the Edmonton Oilers at this point, you can't use the playoff argument against them because they've made it close to the Stanley Cup. If they lose, like, they haven't won it, but they've made it this close. So
yeah,
they're
in the conference final last year, I think, or the year before.
A year before.
They were knocking on the door for the past few years here. So much like Florida, it's another tinker if you're Ken Holland.
And I feel like even if the Oilers lose this series, I think there's a positive spin on the series for them that they fought back. If they had been swept, I think
if
it
they
would
been
have
swept,
been, then there may have been questions.
Yeah.
But they fought back in this series. They forced a Game 7. It would really shock me if there's questions about Draisaitl and McDavid's future in Edmonton.
let's look at the back end here, and there's been a lot of talk about Darnell Nurse's ability.
Yeah, I think he might be out.
Exactly. That's precisely where I'm going with this. His contract is 9.25 until the end of 29-30. He's 29 right now. He's going to turn 30 next February.
Mm-hmm.
He has a no move clause starting June 1st of 2027. He has a 10-team trade list. Do you look at trading Nurse if this doesn't go your way? Or when do you start that talk at least?
I think even if this does go your way, you still got to have that talk because he's not worth the money that they're paying him. Mm-hmm. And I think it's Ken Holland's not returning after this season. I think he's done as the GM after this season, if I'm not mistaken. Fact check me on that.
Will do.
But I've seen it pop up. So if Ken Holland isn't there, if they bring in somebody else, I think that there's certainly going to be those talks. But I think you have to have that talk anyways because he takes up, as you said, Alex, a massive chunk of their cap space. And with $9.2 million, there's a lot you can do with that money.
Yeah. It looks like he is going to be there. He looks like he signed an extension recently. He's going to be in his role, according to OilersNation.com, through the 28-29 season. So he still has a few more years left.
I did not know that.
What do you think you get for Nurse? Because there's no way you're not going to retain on that at least. So do you just look to try and get picks, or do you try and get a roster player back? Because you have young bucks like Bouchard's 24, Broberg's 22. Do you try and kind of push them and then try and use picks to build elsewhere, or what do you think a Nurse deal looks like?
I don't think they get anything for him. I think it's
really.
I think it's your Marc-Andre Fleury for nothing deal.
Okay.
I think it's something like that, or they might even need to attach a pick to Darnell Nurse to get rid of him, because I don't think that there's a team out there, even teams with lots of cap space. I know the Coyotes, we're both repping them here.
We're going to talk about them later too.
Yeah, I guess now Utah Hockey Club, but they used to take on those bigger contracts that teams didn't want.
The Datsyuks, the Webbers,
Andrew Ladd they had as well. So I could see them, or actually I was going to say I can't see them trading for Darnell Nurse because
they have hit the cap floor. They have like $50 million paid up.
Okay.
And the floor is 60 something.
Okay.
So they might have to, but they also have a bunch of red and blue in their cap friendly as well.
Yeah. So I could see them maybe them of all teams would trade him. It would have to be a team with a ton of cap space, but then you're committed then to that
You're
contract
committed to that. You're
for
tied
a
to that
long
anchor.
time, right? So I think that the Oilers are definitely going to lose the deal on paper, but it's more so just to free up that cap space and maybe get somebody else better with that 9.25. Or I'm guessing Evan Bouchard as well on his next extension is going to get a lot of money.
Bouchard is up. He's up at the end of next season. So yeah, he's going to ask for a bit more money. Matthias Ekholm is up in 2 years, but he's also by the end of the contract, he's going to be probably in the 36, 37 area. So yeah, I imagine Bouchard's probably going to command a pretty decent raise for what he has done so far. We should probably move off of this, but I got to get a prediction in here. We both agree it's going to be Edmonton.
Yeah.
What do you think the score is going to be?
4-1.
Yeah?
I want to see overtime. I think that'd be the coolest thing ever to get Game 7 Stanley Cup Final overtime. But from what I've seen of the Panthers these last 3 games, I have no other reason to believe that it's going to be anything different from that.
Do you think? Okay, so let's go with 4-1. Is that because Bobrovsky can't find it, or is that because his defense just continues to do what they've been doing?
Because his defense continues to do what they've been doing.
It's so sad because they're on paper they're fine defensively. On paper they're good, but when I was watching the goals, like a lot of drive-by pinches that don't land, a lot of weird changes on a couple of goals there. The majority of the goals that Bobrovsky's let in were odd man rushes or breakaways. It's a shame that they've come so far and he's just being let down by the guys in front of him. I agree. I would love to see it in overtime. I just don't see it in the cards. I think it's probably going to be 4-1, 5-1, maybe 5-1 with a couple empty netters. 3-1 with about 5 minutes left in the third, and then 2 quick empty netters, and that's it.
Yeah.
Especially with the Florida team that came back from the finals last year too. It just sucks that they get so far again, and wasn't the Vegas game like 6-2 or something as well?
9-3. That was a beating.
Oh,
that was
man,
Golden Knights
twice.
scored the most goals to ever clinch a Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Like that
especially this year. That just looks so sad.
Like I said, that'd be deflating to lose this series after the one last year.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to some trades that have dropped in the past couple days here. So I already talked about the Markstrom trade on this channel. What did you think of it?
I didn't mind the return Calgary got. Obviously, I think that they me and my buddies have all been texting back and forth because I'm sure you as well, a lot of Calgary friends. Mm-hmm. But I would have liked them to get that 10th overall pick. Then you have 9 and 10. But at the same time, too, I think that New Jersey might be paying a little bit much for Markstrom, dare I say. Like, I like Jacob Markstrom. I think it's a fair trade. I'll just say that.
So I was thinking about this a couple days ago and leading up to today. The Flames retained on Markstrom 31%.
Yeah, that's part. Yeah, it's true.
What do you think they got in return for that? Like, do you think that first round pick was a second round pick until they retained? Or do you think that first round pick was off the table until they retained? What do you think Calgary retaining on Markstrom did as far as the trade goes?
It probably, like you said, was originally a second round pick. And Calgary, I think, now they add another first round pick. Like, you look at the Chris Tanev deal, a lot of people were thinking maybe they'd get a first round pick for him. They ultimately got a second. So I think maybe this time they were a little bit more desperate for a first. And I think due to retaining salary. And you have to think too, like, there's a few goalies out on that market. Saros, Ullmark. So if New Jersey was being offered a higher, or if other teams were asking more out of New Jersey for those guys, then New Jersey was probably a little bit more reluctant to give a higher return to the Flames as well.
How much Flames hockey do you watch?
I don't follow it closely. I watch a bit. My one roommate this year is a huge Flames fan, so I watched a bit. I do have a next question here. Assuming Conroy does nothing for this offseason here, his tandem is Vladar Wolf. Yeah.
Does that concern you? If you're a Flames fan?
Yes.
Because it concerns me.
It certainly does for this season. I seen a bit of Dustin Wolf's play. He was great at the one game I went to against Vegas this year. It was insane. Yeah. But then most of what I was watching on TV, he wasn't all that great. And it seems like he's in that purgatory between AHL and NHL, where he's too good to play in the AHL, but just not good enough yet for the NHL. Vladar, he's had his moments as well in the NHL where he's been good, but I don't think you can rely on him to certainly be a starter this year, because he's also had bad stretches too. So,
the most number of games that Dan Vladar has played in a season is 27.
Yeah.
So you're gonna need to have one of them be a starter, either someone who's played 75 career games in the NHL or someone who's played 20.
Yeah.
How many has Wolf got into?
Not many. Tell you that.
Do you just platoon them until a starter just kind of emerges?
I guess you have to. Wouldn't surprise me maybe if they go with the veteran Vladar to start the year, but then like you said,
Kind of ease
rotate
Wolf in.
starts. Yeah.
Yeah, Wolf's only played 18 games in his career.
The other part of this too is that the Flames aren't expected to win this year.
No, absolutely not.
But at the same time too, you don't want to mess up the development of Dustin Wolf.
Which is precisely what I think they're doing. Which sucks because, you had deep Flame fans will remember Tyler Parsons was an up-and-coming goalie, and that didn't work out. Leland Irving was the same thing. That didn't work out either. And if we're throwing Wolf, ironically, to the Wolves here, I think that's going to do long-term damage. And I said it when I did the video for the Markstrom trade. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I think this is I think this is Conroy saying, yeah, this season's a loss.
I'm just looking because there's a goalie that I might have in mind for the Flames to sign.
To sign?
Yes. Cam Talbot.
No.
No?
I don't think they do that again.
No?
No, I don't think it didn't work that well the first time.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think like he's a better option than Vladar.
Yeah, I guess you could go out and get an actual starter.
At least if because I'm like you're talking about, if Vladar's not good enough to be the starter, then it's almost you have to go with Wolf, and he might not be ready. So I feel like Cam Talbot he's not going to be good, but I think he can handle a starter's workload still. Maybe, yeah, him and Wolf. I'm not entirely sure.
And if you want to share my screen, Cam Talbot, when he was in town in 1920, played 26 games, and he was a 12-10-1 with a .919 save percentage. Wasn't horrible, but I don't. Maybe. How old is he?
He played well during stretches.
He's 36.
Yeah, he played well during stretches this year with the LA Kings. He's not a star like Markstrom. He's certainly not going to fill that void. But like I said, he's better than Vladar.
I kind of like that idea. I kind of like the Talbot idea the more I look at it, because he's an older guy. He has the ability to play a bunch of games. He played 73 for the Oilers in 16-17.
Yeah.
Now, how much of his age is that a factor? Across his career, he's a .913. I don't hate it.
Yeah.
Send Vladar out for a pick or two, and then, because that's what Conroy's been doing with every trade, is he's getting at least a pick or two in. You know what? I think I like that. I think you're on something. I hope that works. I hope that hits. Moving on to the Dubois trade, shockingly to the Capitals, 1-for-1 for Darcy Kuemper.
Yeah. I was as we were doing this show, I was able to put 2 and 2 together while you were wearing the Kuemper jersey. At first, I thought it was more so the land auction while you were wearing the Arizona.
Didn't even come to me. I just thought, what jersey do I want to wear? Let's wear the Arizona one. Why not? Didn't think I forgot I would be talking about Kuemper today, which honestly ties into the Talbot conversation we just hopped off of. With Kuemper coming into LA, do you think that's an upgrade from Talbot? Cup winner in Kuemper?
No.
No. Why?
At least not what we've seen this last season. I loved Darcy Kuemper when he was in Arizona. Mm-hmm. I actually, at the time, I had a hot take that Kuemper was a top 5 goalie in the NHL. I thought he was that good at the time.
When was that? When he was in Arizona?
When was it the year where the Coyotes led the division until his injury? I think it was 2019 or 2020. I was big on Darcy Kuemper back then.
That must have been 18-19 because he played 55 games that season. I would think that would be...
Yeah, he was great back then, and then he got hurt. And then when he was playing for Colorado, he wasn't a star in that, but he was certainly good enough to take them over that edge, win them the Stanley Cup. I haven't liked what we've seen of him since he's been with the Washington Capitals. And Charlie Lindgren stole the job from him, but again, Charlie Lindgren was playing great.
Yeah.
Maybe he's an upgrade on Talbot, but I'm not sold.
He was a former King too, Kuemper.
Yeah.
Played for them in 17-18 before getting traded, ironically, to Arizona. And then you have the case of Dubois, who played himself out of Columbus, played himself out of Winnipeg. They didn't like it there. Went to LA, and now he's in Washington. I don't see this as being sustainable for him. This attitude of I think he
needs to grow up.
Yeah.
He's 25 years old. Correct me if I'm wrong on that age. 24 or 25 years old.
He's turning 26 also on Monday. He's a year to the day older than me.
Yeah. So he needs to grow up at this point. He had all the tools to become the franchise guy in Columbus.
He ruined the Leafs in that play-in series.
He did.
Ruined them.
He was amazing in that series. And then the next season, him and Tortorella ran into problems. And I think John Tortorella is a great coach, but there are other players, I guess, have had issues with him in the past. So goes to Winnipeg, whatever. It's a fresh start. Mm-hmm. Everybody agreed at the time that him and Laine both needed fresh starts.
Both needed fresh starts, yeah. It's a fresh start for both players here.
He goes to Winnipeg, and while certainly to me, he didn't look like a franchise player there. He looked like a good player.
Yeah.
I thought at times. He was good in the series against Vegas last year, despite them losing in 5 games. But Winnipeg's too cold for Pierre-Luc Dubois. He doesn't like it there. It's not a big enough hockey market. He gets everything he's ever asked for. He's traded to LA and gets a big extension, 8 years, $8.5 million a season. And he's being depended upon as the guy in LA. And then this past season, he ends up, during the regular season, has 41 points. Now, I get that the LA Kings played the trap game this year. It doesn't allow for much offense. But I think he could have contributed more than 41 points for being paid $8.5 million a season. But the thing that I heard from people around the league, or I guess other fans throughout the league and seen online, was just wait till the playoffs. This guy's built for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then he, in the playoffs, had 1 point, and it was 1 goal. And that goal, I don't know if you remember this, he threw it towards the net, and it went off of Darnell Nurse's skate. Mm-hmm. That's all he contributed for that run for the LA Kings. And now he's being sent to Washington, and he can still figure it out. Like, he's 25 years old, but he's still certainly got time to maybe figure it out. And I want to say that he needs to pick it up here, or else this could be his last chance. But with the extension he just got, he'll probably have 7 more chances after this. And there's been a couple of players that went to Washington and found their game. Dylan Strome did. I can certainly say that he's out of excuses at this point. He needs to figure it out.
Could have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just such a problem player now. Like, fairly childish. He has to grow up. I completely agree. Do you see him being a fit in Washington? Do you see him being what Washington needs? Do you think Washington is what he needs?
Which Pierre-Luc Dubois are we going to get? If we get
the Columbus one,
if we get Columbus or
watch out.
even Winnipeg, he could be a fit.
Yeah.
If he continues to whine there and isn't living up to his contract, which I don't think he's even going to do anyways, because I think that was an awful contract that the Kings gave him. The other part of it too was that, man, people criticized that deal, that trade from Winnipeg to LA. Everybody was saying at the time that it was a fleece for the Winnipeg Jets. Pierre-Luc Dubois proved the haters right.
Yeah, because that was the Iafallo trade as well.
Iafallo, Gabe Vilardi, like somebody else in that. I think Kupari maybe. I'm not sure.
I think Kupari. I'd have to double check. But one more trade that we're going to cover before we move off the trade talks here. A bit of a shocking one. Dellandrea sent to the Sharks for a 4th.
Yeah.
I don't get this.
I don't either. I liked what Dellandrea brought to the Dallas Stars these last couple of years in the playoffs.
Seems like a really good up-and-coming player, per an article by Sean O'Leary on The Score. Dellandrea is a pending restricted free agent, and he's registered 9 points in 42 games this season before adding 1 goal in the playoffs. That doesn't equal a 4th to me.
No.
I don't know, especially with the Stars being such a good team, I don't know why they would ship out a young up-and-coming player like Dellandrea for a 4th round. It doesn't make sense to me. I get that the Sharks need bodies, and they don't really have much else to offer in return for a trade aside from picks, but if you're a GM, Jim Nill, I don't know what you're thinking here.
I think for Dellandrea, I don't think he was ever going to be a star in Dallas, but I liked what he brought to the playoffs for them these last 2 seasons. Played against the Golden Knights 2 years in a row, and it felt like, especially this year when Vegas was playing Dallas, that 4th line for the Stars generated a lot of chances for them in those games. And to me, Dellandrea stuck out as a player that he's, like I said, not a star, but for Stanley Cup teams, he's the kind of guy that you look at on the 3rd and 4th line and go, that was what took them over the edge and got them over the hill, was their depth. And I thought he could be that player for Dallas.
Especially with the young stars they have coming up. You have Wyatt Johnson. You have
Robo's there, but
Robinson's there.
Stankoven,
thank you.
Yeah.
I just don't understand the trade at all. And I feel for shifting topics now to Barclay Goodrow.
Yeah.
Management came to him when he was in New York, said, hey, we're going to, are you cool if we send you, because he has a modified no trade clause, are you cool if we send you to San Jose? Mm-hmm. He said, nope. So then they put him on waivers, and San Jose picked him up.
Yeah.
Ironically, wasn't he on that Sharks team that...
He was the one who scored the OT
overtime winner. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand what New York gained there.
He played well for them in the playoffs too. Kind of the same thing as Dellandrea. I just said about Dellandrea. He's the kind of player that you look at on the 3rd and 4th line and go, that was what took them over the edge. He did that for the Tampa Bay Lightning. That was a great 3rd line they had. I think it was him, Gord, and Blake Coleman.
Yeah,
was that 3rd line.
That problem 3rd line for Tampa, those 2 playoff runs. I think the problem for Goodrow stems from, in the season he had 12 points in 80 games.
Yeah.
But then there are players that you don't have for the season, you have for playoffs. And these past playoffs, he had, in 16 games, he had 8 points. Then you look back at both Lightning series, and he honestly got less points. 19-20 with Lightning in their championship run, 25 games, 6 points. The following year, 18 games and 6 points as well.
Yeah.
But he's a hard-nosed forward. I just don't understand. There's a lot about the past week I haven't understood a lot. This is probably the biggest one. I don't get why you just lose him for nothing.
I don't know either.
If you send him to a team that he wants to go to, you have assets coming back. Instead, you just lose him for nothing.
Because I'm looking at the Rangers cap friendly here, trying to figure out which players they need to sign. They need to sign Capo Caco. He's not going to command a lot of money. He shouldn't. Alexis Lafreniere may command a bit, but he's currently being paid $2.325. Or sorry, that's going into next year. I was looking at the wrong year, I guess.
Gotcha.
Jack Roslovic needs to be signed. It's not a big loss. He played well at times for the Rangers, I guess.
Wheeler, you can let walk into the
Wenberg wasn't worth what they gave up at the deadline, so I think he's out.
Ryan Lindgren, you're keeping.
Yeah, he could get some money. Braden Schneider, I guess, but
Eric Gustafsson. I think you keep one of Gustafsson or Ruedel. I would prefer to keep Gustafsson, but that's me.
The big one that I see, though, this is expiring next season, Igor Shesterkin. So I guess, but yeah. I agree with you, though, Alex. Like, I feel like you could. Yeah, I feel like you could have at least maybe gotten something in a trade even, but if they could have gotten something, they would have traded him.
Which I don't understand, because Goodrow's a great forward.
Yeah.
He could probably fit in really well to, I would say, half the teams in the league.
Yeah.
Probably as like a second or third liner, but something. But losing him for nothing just makes absolutely no sense to me.
No.
Speaking of things that make absolutely no sense to me, the Arizona Coyotes situation. So as it turns out, the Arizona State Land Department said that they're canceling the land auction, which throws a massive monkey wrench into Alex Morello's 5-year plan, because that 5-year plan hinged on that auction.
Yeah.
Per an article by the AP on the score here, the 110-acre tract of land in North Phoenix had been targeted by Morello in hopes of ending the Coyotes' long-running bid to find a permanent home. When the auction for the land, appraised at $68.5 million, was pushed back until this summer, Morello followed the advice of the NHL and opted to sell the franchise to Utah Jazz owners Ryan and Ashley Smith. With this whole situation of how Morello handled the move from not telling staff, from saying from saying to the press that we're looking forward to this land auction, but behind closed doors he was saying, yeah, we're going to move, and then just kind of lying to his staff, and then with this cancellation of the auction, do you see a return to Arizona soon?
I don't know.
Do you think this gets resolved before 2030? Because that's 6 years.
Yeah, that is a long time. Like, I hate to do this here, Alex, give you this answer, but I'm not sure at this point what the next step is for the Arizona Coyotes.
Which sucks, because I
wanted to see them back.
They have an amazing fan base.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame that it's all gone this way. And
do you have any idea where they go from here?
I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get a team until at least for another decade.
Do you think that do you think that the league will extend that 5-year window? Can they?
Yes.
Yes.
I think they will. I think Bettman's probably going to get on the phone to Morello and say, hey,
as long as you have a plan.
Exactly. So, like, show me what you have.
Yeah.
Show me what you have, and we'll get this done. But I think
it's certainly not going to be within that 5-year window.
No, absolutely not. If they do it, I honestly, it's to the point where I don't think that after Utah, obviously, I don't think that Arizona is going to be the next expansion team. I think you have Houston banging on the door. I think you have Atlanta banging on the door. There was talks of, I think there was one in Cincinnati. There's an interested owner out there.
There was like brief, I guess, rumblings of Kansas City.
Yeah, that's another one. And I don't know, as much as I want to see hockey return to Arizona, because you have stars like Austin Matthews come up in the system, and you have a massive fan base out there as well. It's just much like how Atlanta was handled. It was both poor ownership, kind of ruining both franchises there. I do want to see a return. I just don't see it happening soon, which sucks.
Yeah, it is tough, and yeah, I want to see it happen as well. Like, I want this to be figured out, but I agree with you at this point that I think it'll at least be another. They aren't going to have it in that 5-year window.
No, they're not going to. Maybe 10. Maybe by 2035 we have the Arizona Coyotes come back, but no, I think that kicks the can far down the road. Shifting topics to a former Arizona Coyote in Derek Brassard retiring.
Yeah.
Over 1,000 games played in the NHL with 10 different teams. He was always the hard-nosed forward.
Yeah.
Started his career in Columbus, went to New York, Ottawa, Pittsburgh, Florida, Colorado, New York Islanders, Arizona, Philly, and ending his career with 15 games in Edmonton. It's one of those players that it's not quite on the level of, Marcel Dion, Joel McGinley, players who should have won a cup but didn't, because he was that hard-nosed forward, and it sometimes just doesn't work out. I'm not surprised that he never got his cup, because he was just always on teams that were never quite there.
Yeah.
He was with the Oilers until last season, 2 seasons ago, just before they started to really kick in. He was with Colorado just before they burst out as well. But that being said, wish him all the best of luck in retirement. He has 545 career points. Also retiring this past week is Stanley Cup champion Andrew Cogliano, who has been known as the player that time forgot. He had a massive Ironman streak going.
Yep.
There's from a tweet by Corey Masiak on Twitter, or X, Twitter. And if I want to share my screen here, games missed per season for Andrew Cogliano: 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 2, 4, 1, 2, 8, 3, 7. 27 games missed in 17 seasons. Man was a warrior. He was an absolute unit.
Certainly was.
Finally got his cup with Colorado when they beat Tampa.
He was a good depth piece in that run.
He was a great depth piece in that run.
Him and Darren Helm were traded to Colorado at the deadline, and they weren't stars on that team, but like we were talking about with Barclay Goodrow and Ty Dellandrea, they were like the players that I guess kind of pushed Colorado to that next level.
Yep. Man, Darren Helm, I remember when he scored with like seconds remaining, and my first thought was, that's Darren Helm?
Yeah.
Like, he's still playing. Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Cogliano, just amazing. Also over 1,000 games played. 1294 career games. Insane.
Yeah.
Insane. Great career to both players there as they ride off into the sunset here. I imagine this will be our last topic. Probably going to end the show a little bit earlier than we typically do. But I did want to end on a bit of a lighter note. Every so often in the hockey world, there'll be these where were you moments. For Canadians, it would be the golden goal. I was at home. But one that has a bit of a sadder connotation to it is, do you remember where you were when you heard about the Humboldt Broncos bus crash?
Yes.
Where were you?
I was at a Lethbridge Hurricanes game.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
What about, was that same with you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I was at Acadia with my then girlfriend, and we both woke up and were on our phones. And
I guess so. I learned. Oh, continue. Sorry.
And I saw this headline on my phone that said from a Sportsnet notification that was talking about the bus crash, and then there was that whole sticks out for Humboldt thing. You were saying.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say that when I was at the game, like I heard that there was a bus crash, but like it was just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
And then
like it was the very early parts of that, like.
Yeah, it was like when you first found out type of thing. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay. And then so then the game happens. It was a great game. Had a fun time. But then on the ride home, I'm listening to the radio. I think it was Hurricanes post-game show. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about the crash. Mm-hmm. And you learned of the severity of it. And your heart just broke for every single person involved. And
Aiden, if you want to walk my screen, or my screen on the monitor there, per an article by the Canadian Press on TSN, Wassermann, a survivor of a bus crash that killed 16 members of the Humboldt Broncos junior hockey team in 2018, was named to Canada's Paralympic team Thursday in the sport of para-rowing. I just wanted to mention that before we signed off, because I can't imagine what that would be like to be in his shoes. during the crash, the aftermath of it, especially for such a small town, because it's not even. When I mentioned the golden goal, that was a moment of utter elation for a lot of Canadians. But then you have stories like this, and it's just the world kind of stops.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember immediately after that, I brought my hockey stuff out to Arcadia just so I could get in a couple of training games every so often, and I along with multiple other students, just had our sticks like in front of our residences.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah. And then you see a bunch of people, you know, with the Humboldt Broncos stickers. You have them wearing green and yellow tape. It's just amazing that Jacob, it says on the article as well, Jacob says that transition from tending goal in hockey to rowing wasn't as difficult as people might think. He's quoted later saying, one of the things I loved most about being a hockey player was the people and being a part of the team. And it's so great that he was able to, I don't want to say bounce back, but that's more or less what it was.
Yeah.
He's made the para rowing team for Canada. I just wanted to shout that out before we close out today. Is there anything else you thought of or anything you wanted to add? Actually, we do have a little bit of time if you're fine, because there's something I want to touch on that we kind of touched on a bit, I think in the pre-show, but not so much in this show. Matvei Michkov is looking at. It's rumored? I don't think he's actually. Has it been reported that he's signed yet, or is it just rumors that he's coming over? It's
heavily rumored. I don't think he's signed just yet. He hasn't come over just yet, but it's heavily rumored that he's going to. Per an article from ESPN 9 hours ago, it says that top prospect Matvei Michkov could join the Flyers in 2024-25. This, to me, is... I thought after the Flyers ended the season that they did that it was a warning shot. Because you have Carter Hart go out for the reasons that he did. And then you have Ivan Fedotov come in. If Ivan Fedotov finds his legs and Matvei Michkov comes over, I could see the Flyers doing some damage here. Especially the Metro's wide open.
The Metro's
season.
Wide open. Outside of the top two teams,
yeah,
it's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
So, you know,
maybe New Jersey's in there, I guess, but
with the addition of Markstrom,
yeah.
You know, you have Jack, Luke, Nico. I'm missing at least two big names there. Jesper, you could argue, Jesper Bratt.
Dougie Hamilton. So they might be part of that. The Penguins are aging a bit. Yeah. Capitals, it depends how. Capitals will get in if nobody else can find their legs.
Yeah. And then you have, obviously, the wild card. Detroit was on the cusp as well. But to me, from this past year, the Flyers weren't supposed to make the playoffs. Everyone had guessed they're going to make like 7th or 8th in the Metro. They weren't going to do much. But then you have Atkinson come back. You have Couturier come back. You have all this scoring and this defensive ability come back as well. You have John Tortorella behind the bench that's really good at getting blood out of a stone. If Michkov comes back, I wouldn't be surprised if the Flyers make the playoffs next year, because they were so close here. And that's the last day of the season. I just couldn't seem to figure it out.
I agree. I'm big on Matvei Michkov.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly thought going into the draft last year that he was the second or third best player. I thought it was a toss-up between him and Fantilli.
Yep.
Then Leo Carlsson goes second. He's proven that so far too. Mm-hmm. He's been great for the Anaheim Ducks, but man, that's huge for Philadelphia.
They also have the 12th overall pick in this draft here as well. So another opportunity to not this coming season, but within a season or two, add to their depth, add to their talent that they have been kind of building here since they've been kind of buns the past half a decade. That's it, unless you wanted to touch on something or mention anything.
I could see Matvei Michkov having a similar rookie season to Kirill Kaprizov when he was with the Minnesota Wild.
You think?
Kaprizov, I had to search up the stats here. I thought he was over point per game. He was just under. He had 51 points in 55 games. And that season, like, he stepped in and he was already the guy in Minnesota. I think that's going to be the case with Michkov. So, possibly, yeah.
Part of that is, Kaprizov was in his late 20s when he came.
Yeah, that's true.
Michkov right now is currently 19.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of an age gap there, but not impossible. He's done decently in the K. He got a point per season over the past 2 seasons here. I don't see why not, or at least around that area. But yeah, that'll be it for this episode of Coast to Coast. Thank you, Clayton, for coming in again. Coming in clutch. Love it.
Thank you for having me on the show. Had a great time.
Happy to have you on. I know I'm going to be watching the game tomorrow night. I know you're going to be watching the game tomorrow night. I'm probably going to be very, 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 very sad. Happy birthday to me. But that is it. We will see you guys on Wednesday. I won't be here, but both Phil and Merrick will be here. So they'll have your season wrap up along with any other news that may come out for the rest of this few days between now and Wednesday. As always, I've been yours, Alex Burke with Clayton Yates from the Armchair Athletes podcast. Enjoy Game 7. Hopefully it's in overtime, and we will see you guys on Wednesday. Thank you for watching.